Hello, friends. Welcome and namaste. A pleasure to be here for you and with you, so to speak. We're going to look at wrist today. So, before we settle in too much, there's one part of the class where I would love for you to have a weight so that we'll stabilize the forearm and we'll play with trying to strengthen the wrist. I do not have an actual like gym weight, but I do have a can of garbanzo beans. Something like that. So you might hit pause, go find what you need, come on back, and click play again. So let's find ourselves in our upright posture. Those buttocks bones rooting down, the crown of the head gently reaching up out of that. And I often think of this as like a rubber band effect, right? When two things move in opposite direction, the thing in between those 2 points lengthens. Don't be rigid with that. Find a sense of ease and softness. Check into any muscle patterns. If you know you clench your jaw regularly, you might check in and try to soften it, that kind of thing. And before we open our eyes, let's just check into the feeling in the wrist, get a felt sense of that area. Maybe there's nothing or nothing prominent, right? Often when people have sensitive wrists, it's not that they're sensitive all the time, but rather when they bear weight on them, when they're over a keyboard for a long time. But just check in, see what your wrists are telling you. And go ahead and open those eyes. And just to put one other thing out there, we don't have to have something happening in a wrist or sensitivity for us to do this work. I think when we do these things and we bring them in to our practice, hopefully it keeps our wrists healthy so they never have sensitivities, right? So just starting with some basic movements. You're going to interlace your fingers. Elbows, they don't have to be touching, but not wide apart, just somewhere where they're comfortable. And then go ahead and let your knuckles move through a figure eight. Just waking up some joints. Go ahead and go the other way with the figure eight. Pardon me. And then going back to center. You're going to take your palms and your fingers together. You're going to peel the elbows up, but keep the heel of the hand together. For me, I kind of think about my heels of my hands gently dropping down till I find that place. This one's not crazy sensational for me. Might be for you. Go ahead and flip. Bring the backs of the hands together. And now the back of the heel of the hands, I know that's not what it is, but that's what I'm going to call it. Keep that together. And for this one, I start to let my elbows drop down. Again, I don't peel apart. I keep together the backs of my hands. And hopefully you're feeling a stretch across the back of the wrist. You're the one inside your body. Do only as much that you feel a stretch where your body can still soften without getting aggravated or inflamed. Go ahead and let that go. And then let your wrist just do circles one way for a little bit, the other way for a little bit. And then if it's okay, you can let your fingertips just kind of hang down and shake a little bit right to left. hmm And then a little bit up, down, or yes, I guess we could call it. And go ahead and just move your fingers and your wrists around. So we're going to look at bearing weight from hands and knees. If this is something that's not okay for you, just a reminder to say that right off the bat. You could sit with something between your heels that you can bring your butt down to, and you could do this work with your wrists further out in front of you, and then you're not bearing as much weight, but you're starting to play with the line, right? Some of us, we're going to come more up towards hands and knees. Again, we could still have our hands out a little bit so we don't have quite so deep of an angle on the wrist. Or they might stack wrists underneath shoulders. any of those variations, please, please push through your finger pads, right? The more we push our finger pads down, the more we take the weight out of the heel of the hand and the wrist. So really push down. My fingers are spread wide, and I'm pushing through my fingers so much it's almost like I get a boost through my palm and my wrist, and it gently pulls up energetically away from the floor, right? Find that longest spine and just pause, just doing this. Go ahead and kneel back or sit back or come to kneeling, but just go ahead and move your wrists a little bit. And then either arms out in front of you or wrists under shoulders. Turn your right fingers to the right and your left fingers to the left. I believe that would be a 90 degrees or so. I could be wrong. That's not always my strong suit. And again, push down through your finger pads. Fingers spread wide and pushing my finger pads so much I feel like energetically, like my heel of my hand and my wrists lift up out of that. Take another breath and sit back for a moment. Take the weight out, move the wrists around. Now, you don't have to do this entire series all at once. You could do what you can that day, come back to it, hopefully, maybe build some strength and then add on. Right? Do part of it one day, part of it another day. Coming forward, you're going to go ahead and you're going to try to right fingertips back till they face your knee. Left fingertips back till they face your knee. Whatever that is in your body. If it feels like more than you can bear, A, don't do it. But B, you might move the fingers closer to your knees. And the same work, y'all. Spread your fingers wide and push your finger pads down, 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 down. You might even traction your fingers in towards the center of your hand and feel how your middle of your palm comes up gently away from the floor, right? Again, more energetically than anything. If you need more intensity, you walk your wrists a little further forward so you have a deeper angle. And sit back. Oh, and go ahead and move that around. I personally like shaking. Some people just like gentle movement in circles. You do you, I'll do me. Okay, and then we're going to do one more here. We're going to dive our fingers. Now we're on the backs of the hands. And again, for this one, I like my hands closer to my knees, further forward, bearing more weight, more intense. That's too much for my body. So I have my hips back behind my heels a little bit. I could curl toes under. I could put something under my butt. You do you, right? But try to spread the fingers wide and press down into the backs of the fingers, the fingernails particularly, right? Keep that, and then maybe your hips sit back a little further. Try to keep the back of the heel of the hand on the ground. So we're increasing that angle for the stretch that comes into what I'm going to call the back of the wrist, right? And let that peel up and just go ahead and move or be still with it for a moment, whatever you need. Let's all of us bring our hands to our thighs. Find that long spine. Take a breath or two and notice the sensation in the wrist. If the wrist is like, please don't do anymore, listen to it, them. If you got just a little more in you, for this one, you're just going to come into a comfortable upright posture, right? I'm going to stack my blocks. I like to have my forearm grounded, and that'll make sense in a second here, I hope. Right? So you could sit on a chair, 2 blocks, and then that way I can bring my forearm down and I can really ensure that I'm isolating, aka not moving my forearm. I'm going to take that weight in one hand, right? If you have to wrap your thumb around, that's okay, but if you could wrap your thumb the same way as the fingers and still keep that in your hand, that's what we're going to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and hold my forearm in stillness. Again, I'm grounded on my leg, my preference. And then I'm going to let my fingers move down as far as I can. Maybe I should show you this angle. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that up and curl it in. And just that. Add breath to it. Make it a breath exercise too, right? Maybe every time you come down, you exhale. And every time you curl up, you inhale. Could I do 20 of these really quickly and be like, done, check off my to-do list? You betcha. Am I going to potentially find more muscles recruiting and more stabilizers deeper in? Yeah, I am, right? Well, chances are really good anyway. So just moving in and out, maybe doing that 8 to 10 times, 15. You do you. I think I've done about 10. I didn't count them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to the other side. So again, I like my forearm on a leg. It just keeps it stable. You could hold it in the mid-air and you could work from there, right? My hand is past the end of my knee. Again, you're going to go ahead and every time you exhale, you're going to let those knuckles move down without moving the forearm, just moving from the wrist joint. You'll curl up with every inhale. And why not move slower and try to find more muscle to recruit, more of the stabilizers closer to the bones? Why not move slower and add breath work and get the benefits of the breath work as well? I've got, I believe, 2 more to go to get to my 10. Here it is. You do you, right? And then go ahead and release that. You could do that without weight at all in the beginning and then add weight to it little by little. Yeah. You can set your cannabar bones so soft to the side. And then we're going to do, well, I want to point out, I can't do it with beans because I can't get it. But if you have a dumbbell kind of weight, you could also reverse that where your palm faces down. Well, why don't we do that, whether you have a weight or not? So forearm down, holding it in place, right? And then I exhale down and I inhale and I come up as high as I can on the weight without lifting my my lower arm bones. Let's do about 2 more of those. And again, you're going to make this into your own personal practice. Yeah. And then switch to the other side. Hold that still. You can pretend you have a weight if you don't actually have one. And just go ahead, let the knuckles go down as far as they can comfortably. And of course, the weight part of it is pulling them back up. There's a little bit of weight. You got to control it on the way down so it doesn't flop. Add breath, loving your wrists. Let's do one more. And go ahead and release that movement if you need it, maybe not. And then for the last piece, we're going to come one more time onto hands and knees. Remember, you can have the weight back so you're not bearing as much weight out in front of you from hands and knees or under your wrists. But you're going to go ahead and you're going to try and come onto tentopods, right? And while you're on your fingers, you're going to pull your fingers in like you're trying to pucker your mat. And just that, right? So let's also strengthen our fingers and train our fingers to do some of the work too. Because what often happens in the yoga practice, probably in other things in life too, but we tend to put all of the weight in the heel of the hands. Often when we're typing, if we have that pad underneath it, right? We forget to add a little support structure to it and to ask our fingers to participate as well, right? So just taking a few breaths. puckering the fingers in towards each other, feeling that energy run up through the arm. And then go ahead and release that. Find yourself in a comfortable upright posture, softening the hands onto the thighs, the jaw, tongue, shoulders, chest, belly, hips. Noticing one more time, as with anything, it's movement based. Just because we're doing yoga doesn't mean everything in it is going to feel good, right? You gotta listen. Bring those hands together in front of the chest. Let the heel of the hands drop down a little bit. And bow your head in, taking a moment of gratitude. Oh, thank you so much for being with me today, friends. Namaste. If you walk away and there's a lot of inflammation, do less or try to figure out what one triggered it and leave that one out, kind of thing. If it just feels like everything got worked really good, great. Might get a little stiff, just move it around again, stretch it. And again, I think when you have something specific, for my friends who are sensitive, coming back to this work on a fairly regular basis, I think can start to strengthen the wrists, open them and strengthen them, so that hopefully you get to a point where you don't have as much pain in them or sensitivity, or you can lower yourself through your push-up, various things friends of mine, students and clients are working towards. May you be well, friends. May all beings everywhere be well, no exceptions.